In every polling place in the United States of America and probably on the planet, you have to have poll officials that make voting easy for the public. So that's what we do. We have a whole staff here. You got a ward clerk, you got 3 inspectors, and then you got a whole bunch of assistant poll officials. The fact is, I've been doing this for 15 to 20 years, and I've never seen it this slow. It's really slow. I'm pretty confident that the reason is that all of the elections are uncontested. So we only have one person running for school board, one person for city council. And see, that's what happens. When they're not contested, the public loses interest. Well, it's very difficult for them to actually be successful doing that. They have to be very well organized. But, you know, it's a free country, and people are... I never discourage anyone from being politically active as long as they're not hurting anybody or anything like that. But basically, like, there's one person who filed too late to run for inspector of elections here in Ward 3. So he's running a write-in candidacy. And he's pretty confident that he did enough communication with the public that he'll get his vote. So it does work. We don't see a lot of that, but it does work if people are energized to do a good job with it. The public is very educated on issues here in Burlington. I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but it's my impression that voters are very aware of what they're voting on.
As someone coming from elsewhere, people are extremely educated here.
And so here we are in Ward 3, which has traditionally been like the lowest income area of the city, with actually a lot of people who are non-citizens, et cetera. So normally you would expect to have very low turnout for those reasons. You don't have a lot of homeowners in Ward 3, and yet we have very high totals, which surprises people who study elections. But it's just basically, as I said, people are knowledgeable, they're enthusiastic about participating in the process, and so we just get more votes than most people would imagine. I think they should do more in the schools. Okay, and we actually do have several people here today who are learning for the first time about the polls. Okay, they're not old enough to actually vote, but they're actually learning about what it takes to work at the polls, et cetera. And they're all very enthusiastic, which is, as far as I'm concerned, that's wonderful. So I think they should do more in the schools to encourage young people to participate in the process. The thing that sticks out most to me is that I expected higher turnout because of the questions on the ballot. You have an unusual number of questions, and a lot of them involve a lot of money. So I would have thought that the public would have turned out better, but they didn't. So for instance, when we pre-processed the mail-in ballots last week, we only processed 266, whereas in recent years we've been processing 1,000. So I was expecting turnout to be low, and there it is. We have a low turnout. So I'm just surprised. Because of the questions, there aren't more people involved.
A huge thank you to Charlie Giannoni, a local hero of our democracy, and thank you for tuning into Town Meeting TV's coverage of Town Meeting Day 2025. My name is Bobby Lussier, and I'm joined by Debbie Ingram. We are so excited to be here tonight. This is the preview show in advance of our 7 o'clock local election results show, in which we will be bringing you all of the results for local elections in Burlington, as well as South Burlington, Winooski, Williston, Essex, Colchester. We've got a lot of results on important candidates, important races, as well as ballot questions and across the municipalities that we're reporting on. And we'll have results for you at results.townmeeting.tv. You can visit that webpage after the polls close at 7 o'clock for the most up-to-date results for this election. We're also bringing you so much more. We've got folks who were on the ballot will be joining us in this studio for stopping by to share their thoughts on the results. If they did win their election, you'll hear what their priorities are for their coming term. We'll hear from the mayor of Burlington, who'll be stopping by here. And we'll also be, we've got so much more in store for you. We've got a tour of the Burlington wastewater and sewage facility, which you didn't think that you had to care about, but now you do because it was on your ballot today. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for studying up on your local community and your local democracy. Thank you for voting. And thank you, Debbie, for being here with me. Appreciate it. And why don't you walk us through a couple of the stories that we might be on the lookout for today and what the contested elections are that we're looking at tonight.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and happy to do that as well. So in 3 towns, we have some contested elections for the select board or city council. In Burlington, 2 very interesting seats. One in the East District, we have because we have an interesting balance of power going on in Burlington. Right now, the Democrats and the Progressives are evenly split because Joan Shannon has stepped down, and so we've got a Democrat and a Progressive, Ally Schachter and Kathy Olwell, running in the East District, and then Joan Shannon's vacant seat. Also, there are 2 people. Buddy Singh is the Democrat, and he's running against Jennifer Monroe Zakaris, the Progressive.
That's interesting. Both of those races interesting. Specifically, that East District, which we know is a swing district in Burlington. We expect that to be a really close race. 2 years ago, that district, I think, was decided by about 100 votes. So probably a really close election there tonight.
Yes, definitely. And it'll be very interesting to see. Sometimes people feel like the first election after a mayoral election is kind of a referendum on how the mayor is doing. So it'd be interesting to see how her party does in this election.
Absolutely.
Right, and then also in South Burlington, we have a contested seat. An incumbent is running against a challenger. Elizabeth Fitzgerald is the incumbent, and she's challenged by Lydia Diamond, who's been a strong advocate for BIPOC voices and renters, and comes from a neighborhood that she feels is underrepresented, the Chamberlain neighborhood of South Burlington. So that'll be interesting. We want to take a look at that.
Right, because South Burlington doesn't have the ward structure, right, that Burlington does. And one big at-large municipality where all 5 of the city councilors can live anywhere in the municipality. Is that right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So that is it's very, very interesting kind of race there.
Yep.
So also in Colchester, we have 2 seats, and they are both contested. Actually, quite a number of people are running for those 2 seats. The incumbent and the clerk, Jackie Murphy, is being challenged by Amy Vetters, who is a small business owner, grew up in Colchester, younger, says she wants to bring younger leadership to the town. And then the 3-year seat has 4 candidates running for a seat that is vacant because Tom Mulcahy, the vice chair, decided not to run again. So that has Mark Houle, UVM MC administrator, Rob Mazza, who's probably his family name is probably the best known, and he runs an excavation business.
That's the same Mazza family?
Yes, that's right. Yes. Paul Pecor is a teacher, and Ralph Perkins is a production manager for a large corporation. So the 4 of them are running for that 1 seat. So that should be quite interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So
and then we've got and then in. Do we have any other contested? I guess not. In Winooski and Essex, there are ballot questions that we will get into in a moment here. But I mentioned we have so much more in store. We have election results, and we also have folks stopping by into our studio. We've got Travis Washington, who is in Studio B, who will be chatting with the folks who stopped by in our studio, folks who were on the ballot today, folks who are leaders in our community, who we can look to understand a little bit more about how this election is shaking out. Let's hear from Travis now to hear a little bit more about what we can expect in Studio B tonight.
Thank you, Debbie and Bobby, and happy Mardi Gras. I'll be here in Studio B asking questions to everyone who has been on the ballot and seeing how their campaigns went. I'm going to toss it back to you all to give us more of an overview of what's going on.
Thank you so much, Travis. You'll see the election results room there. That's the room just a few feet away from where we are now. We have volunteers stationed all throughout Chittenden County tonight who will be calling in the results of the election as soon as the polls close at 7 o'clock. You still have time to vote, by the way. So, the polls close at 7. So if you haven't voted yet, get out there and cast your ballot, and then come right back here at 7 o'clock for the election results, which we will have for you in studio. We have a number of folks on this incredible team who are gathering the results, and we'll be compiling all those on results.townmeeting.tv.
Yeah, and I'd really just like to highlight what you just said about folks going out and voting. I mean, we've heard, we just heard from Charlie that turnout in Burlington has been kind of low. There's some really important things going on. I mean, it's not a mayoral election, but the two seats are very important, and there are a lot of bond measures. There are 3 bond measures and several charter change measures to vote on. So, you know, please get out there. You don't want just a few people in your city deciding things that affect everybody.
It's true, and I wouldn't say that the ballot questions are by any means a shoe-in. In a lot of these cases, there are renter protections which have been contested across the state, and there are measures related to the issues in Israel and Palestine. There are measures related to the infrastructure and wastewater systems, which are going to significantly impact people's water bills and their property taxes. And then there's, of course, school budgets, which did fail across the state last year, Debbie, at a pretty high mark, more than we've seen in past years. So certainly not a given, and certainly important to make your voice heard and to get out there and vote if you haven't yet, because we're hearing it's a lower turnout election this year, and those are the elections where every vote really, really does matter.
That's
Absolutely.
right, and yeah, and local politics, you know, especially we may feel a little frustrated these days with our national politics, but local politics, it really hits you at home, and these decisions that need to be made are just tremendously important and impactful for you and your family.
It's true, and you're going to look at the results that we're going to present to you in a couple hours, and you're going to say, oh my God, it was just a few votes. It was just a few dozen votes that decided whether or not Burlington could invest in its stormwater infrastructure, or whether Burlington renters have a certain amount of time before they might be evicted by their landlords. All really important things on the ballot that are worth tuning in for and worth casting a ballot for. So let's dig a little bit further into, we mentioned the Burlington ballot has quite a lot on it tonight, Debbie, and we've got a couple of the candidates you mentioned, as well as those ballot questions. We talked about a couple of them, but what is on the ballot in Burlington?
Yes, yeah, definitely some very interesting things. So, so the 3 bonds, one is a general obligation bond, which pays for city infrastructure, public facilities, sidewalks, parks, city buildings, a fleet of electrical vehicles. So that's a $20 million bond, and it requires a 2/3 vote, but it's some really basic, important things. So that's certainly worth getting out there for. The water infrastructure bond is around drinking water, and that's a $20 million bond. And then the lake revenue bond is very large, and it's very important in terms of both wastewater and stormwater. It would be $138 million on the wastewater and $14 million on the stormwater. Now, that would definitely impact people's water bills, water-related bills. It would see a big increase, in fact. But again, these are things that, while they're not glamorous, they're really important. I mean, you need to have this kind of infrastructure. When when things don't work properly, you really notice. So it's probably worth investing in, but it's certainly worth voting on.
Absolutely, and certainly interesting to keep an eye on all of the infrastructure construction and renovation happening in the city of Burlington and nearby right now, as our aging infrastructure results in some bills to pay for the municipality. So we mentioned a couple of those contested races in the Burlington City Council, which will be one of the big issues that we'll be keeping an eye on tonight, as the Progressives and the Democrats are vying for control of the City Council here. If the Burlington mayor, as a progressive, is able to pull her party into a majority on the City Council tonight, it would be the first time in Burlington history that the Progressive Party would have control of both the City Council and the mayor's office, and that would be quite a change compared to the stronghold of Democratic leadership that has been in place on the City Council. Let's hear from a few of the City Council candidates from both the Progressive and the Democratic Party running for City Council today.
I am a mom of 2 kiddos who go to the Sustainability Academy in 1st and 3rd grade. I live with my husband Mike in Ward 1, and I work downtown at the Flynn. And I walk to work every day, walking from Ward 1 through Ward 8, right downtown to the Flynn. And I love working at such a pillar of our community, and something that I think brings out the best when we're all sort of laughing and bopping our heads together in community to music. It really reminds me of the best parts of Burlington.
I'm a retired social worker by profession, and I have worked both at King Street Youth Center and Sarah Holbrook Community Center. I have served on the Burlington School Board for 10 years. 4 years I was in Ward 7 in the New North End, and 6 years from 2016 to 23, I was from the East District. And I have also worked at and started the New North End Youth Center.
I'm running for City Council because I want to show up for my community. This is an especially challenging and divisive time, and rather than kind of back off, I want to lean in, and I want others to lean in with me. And I think that I bring some key skills, perspectives, and leadership skills to the table that are really well suited to the moment in Burlington. And you know, I've been knocking on a lot of doors, having a lot of conversations, and every one of those conversations is like a mini job interview. And it's just reinforcing the idea that I want to do this, that I think I'm good for it, and that I can get the job done.
I've been in Burlington for a long time. You know, I've grown to love Burlington and care for this community in a variety of different ways. I spent 18 years on the Marketplace Commission. And I got to see firsthand how the business community intersects with city government and how important it is for economic vitality, having rooms and meals and gross receipt taxes take the burden off of regular households. I spent 15 plus years on the board of the Boys and Girls Club, and I've seen how well this community comes together to help each other and, you know, lift the whole community up. So that's why I'm running.
Those were the 4 candidates running in contested races on the ballot today for the Burlington City Council. Buddy Singh and Jennifer Monroe Zakaris running in the South District. That's Joan Shannon's seat. She has vacated that seat after 20 years on the council. And also the East District candidates, which you saw earlier in that clip. Kathy Olwell, the progressive, running against Ali Schachter, the Democrat, in the East District. That's over in the Hill section and over kind of by Winooski. We should also mention, while the North District and Central District races only had 1 candidate on the ballot, we are hearing that there is a write-in campaign from Ali Jang in the North District. Ali Jang, who was the North District City Councilor, or maybe he was Ward 7 or Ward 4, I don't totally remember, but he was there for quite a while, and so he's running now again after seeing that Mark Barlow, who was an independent for a long time, is now running as a Democrat unopposed in the North District. Debbie.
Yes, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting development that's really only happened in the last day or two, we understand. Kind of on Facebook, the write-in campaign has gotten some traction, and, you know, it's kind of interesting to begin with that Mark Barlow decided to throw his hat in with the Democrats and stop being an independent. So, yeah, that makes this a little more dramatic, and we'll see how that winds up.
How that shakes out. It is. We should note that a write-in candidate does potentially impact our ability to report results with the same speed that we might get you some of the other results. So that North District, while it's of course always really challenging to unseat an incumbent, let alone an incumbent with a write-in candidate, it is going to be interesting to see how many votes Ali Jang does drum up with his last-minute write-in candidacy there. That's not the only write-in candidate that we have on the ballot, and in South Burlington, actually, it looks like a write-in candidate is likely to win one way or another for the school board seat, Debbie.
School board seat, that's right, yes. Yeah, and I just wanted to add to what you were saying about write-in candidates. I have served as a justice of the peace in Williston for many years, and when you know, the town clerks are required to write down all of the write-in candidates that are put on the ballots, and it really adds quite a lot more to the JPs helping the clerks count the votes. So it's, it is time consuming. And of course, this is good that, Allie's running an organized campaign, but I do want to caution people not to write in Mickey Mouse or something like that, just to protest, because it really does put a burden on your community members who are trying to volunteer for these things. Yeah. But yes, you brought up South Burlington, the school board. It's true that there are 2 write-in candidates for a 1 year remaining on a 3-year term, and that's Carolyn Gracie Lawrence and Emily Hoffman. Emily is a South Burlington High School and a UVM grad, has kids in the school. Her father was a school administrator, actually, and Carolyn Lawrence has served the town as a recreation planner. So that'll be interesting to watch.
That will be interesting, and of course, yeah, that race might take a little bit longer than some of the other ones. We also have the school budget, of course, and this is also just to note the folks who are running for South Burlington School District in the other races here. I believe that these are all uncontested
That's right.
Races, so these folks, a couple of them are incumbents, a few of them are new, and they will all very likely, we are not aware of any write-in campaigns against these folks, so they will likely make it. But they have a pretty daunting task ahead of them, potentially. The South Burlington School District was one of those pesky budgets last year, Debbie, that did not pass on the first time and didn't pass on the second time.
That's right.
So South Burlington voters have shown a reluctance to increase their property taxes significantly, and that'll be something to keep an eye on for the South Burlington school budget tonight.
Definitely, yes. I think when a budget fails twice, like it did, there's usually an effort on the part of the school board to really address that and to be kind of concerned about what the voters would think the next year. But regardless, they did actually raise the school budget a little bit, and so and there's an estimated property tax increase of 8.1%. Although they did reduce the staff by about 15 positions. So, they did what they could, but they didn't completely, retreat into making a reduction. So we'll have to see how that pans out as well.
That is going to be interesting. We did hear from Liberty Dar, who's a reporter for the other paper, who shared with us earlier a few weeks ago what is on the top of mind for South Burlington voters. Let's hear from Liberty Dar now.
The city budget is at $55 million, which is slightly less than it was last year, although people are going to see, a slight increase in their municipal property taxes. I think it's around 3.3% with this associated budget. But I think what everyone was really looking at this year was the school budget, which was 7% expenditure increase over last year at $71.5 million. So I think that was kind of the big one that people were going to the ballot box to sort of.
It was voted down twice
last
in
year.
2024.
Yep, it was voted down twice. It passed on the third try. And this year was arguably just as difficult for a lot of the school officials. With that budget came about 15 reduction in full-time equivalent employees with the district. Lots of feedback from residents. We're super tapped into school board meetings leading up to the town meeting day vote for sure.
Reporting from South Burlington on some of the dynamics behind the South Burlington school budget, which South Burlington voters did weigh in on today, and you'll hear from right here the results of that school budget election. You can tune in here to Town Meeting TV. We're on YouTube. We're on cable channel. What is it? 217 or 317, Jordan? No.
One or the other.
One or the other.
Yes,
and we're also on Comcast channel 1087. And you can find all of the results that we'll be reporting tonight at results.townmeeting.tv. Taxes, property taxes, of course, are a big story tonight, Debbie. It impacts everyone. It impacts both the folks who own their homes and are looking at the property taxes going up to fund education costs, and it also impacts renters who, I myself as a renter, have to, keep that population in mind. About half of Burlington is made up of renters, and there's an impact there too. Landlords increase their rent for when their property taxes go up. So it's a cost that everyone in the community bears. What are some of the dynamics that we're looking at behind the school budgets that folks are voting on today?
Yes, it's a really interesting dilemma for a lot of school boards to try to figure out what they need to do. Actually, in the cities that we're covering tonight, only one school board decreased their budget to try to fend off any problems. That was the Champlain Valley Union School District. Everybody else has made at least modest increases. But yes, we saw in the November election last year that there was kind of a taxpayer revolt, if you will, a property tax revolt. And it's the state education property tax really that has a big impact on the taxes that people pay, and they don't have that much control over that. So it's a kind of weird disconnect that we have in our system. On the one hand, the state property tax is good, I think, because it tries to make it equitable across spending equitable across all the different towns in the state, and so that lower income towns, smaller towns, can have a high quality of education just as some of the larger areas. But then it does actually come up with winners and losers. I mean, there are some towns that have to pay more to try to kind of help others.
That is, and it is confusing to follow along.
Yes.
For example, that graphic that we just showed, you mentioned that, for example, the Burlington School District did make some modest increases in their budget, and yet the property tax impact this year, property taxes in Burlington are actually projected to go down a little bit. And trying to wrap our heads around that has been difficult. But what are some of the dynamics there? I think the same dynamic is at play in Winooski. And meanwhile, Champlain Valley, that's Williston, as well as a few other communities out in sort of the...
Heinsberg, Shelburne, and Charlotte.
There you go. Yeah. Are having to make some larger cuts to just get to the same level of property tax reduction that Burlington got to. How does that happen?
Right. Well, a couple of things at play. So a lot of the driver behind increases statewide are healthcare for healthcare prices, insurance for teachers and staff. That keeps pushing the costs up. There's a new pupil waiting program, which was based on a study that was done. It really does actually cost more to educate students who have English as a second language, or students who have other special needs. That waiting generally benefits some of the places like Winooski and Burlington, where more of those students are. And so it really, people don't know completely what their property taxes are until the state looks at all the different votes, all the different local votes, and then compiles that information, and then the legislature sets the state property tax at the end of the whole season. So it is complicated, and it's hard to figure.
It is, and we will try our best to unpack it for you. We have an incredible team that is working to bring you the election results tonight. Let's hear from Travis Washington, who's standing by with some of the folks who were out at the polls this morning to chat with voters and hear what was on their minds. Travis?
Hi, yes, I'm here with our Exit Voices team, some of our Exit Voices teams, Emily Brewer, Logan Skinner here. How was Exit Voices this morning?
It was really fun. This was my 6th time going out and doing Exit Voices, and my first time doing it in Burlington. So that was pretty special.
Logan?
Yeah, I was really excited. It was actually my first time. Cold, but really exciting.
Amazing, amazing. And was there anything that you learned this time around that struck you as interesting?
The vibe was different in Burlington. I typically go out to Essex and Winooski and Williston, and what I really love about Burlington, I mean, you can see it in all the communities, but the sense of community is really there in Burlington, especially with all the bake sales and people that bring their kids. I think that's really fun because they're the next generation. So.
Yeah, I think for me, it was learning more about ballots that I haven't been looking at. Like Winooski is actually a really contested ballot this year. Learning about the apartheid-free declaration and actually hearing a lot of various different opinions and views towards, like, there were people handing out information at the polls and different people's reactions to that. So I thought that was really interesting.
Okay, and speaking of voting and that kind of stuff, like, what did you learn about voting and civic engagement, even voting in Burlington or voting in some local elections?
What I thought was really cool was when we were at Ward 3, there was a bunch of students there from the Rock Point School that were helping out elected officials, putting ballots in the machine, helping people get registered to vote. And some of them weren't even old enough to vote. So it was really cool to see them getting involved in the process. I didn't know that was a thing. So.
Yeah, I think building off of that, like, not understanding how much volunteer work goes into voting, and, like, even seeing our own coworker Charlie at the polls at Ward 3, yeah, it's really impressive how much people support our local democracy.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for all your hard work, and thank you for joining me here. I'm going to send it back to Bobby and Debbie in Studio A.
Great. Thank you so much, Travis. Thank you to Emily and Logan for heading out to the polls this morning. We have so much in store for you tonight on our election results show. This has just been a sneak preview. You can tune back in here at 7 o'clock for a full rundown of the election results in Burlington and the surrounding communities. We'll have interviews with the folks who were on the ballot. You'll get, we'll have a number of other bits of little snippets of content here and there that help to make sense of all of the election results and why this election is so important, Debbie. It really is a big one.
It is, and truly every election is. I think we're beginning to see that more and more, right? And but especially local elections really impact you and your household. So please get out there and vote. You still got time before the polls close.
It's true. You do still have a couple or an hour left before the polls close. So get out there and vote. Thank you so much to our underwriting partners here at Town Meeting TV who helped to make this work possible. We are so grateful to them, and we're grateful to you for tuning in. So we'll see you at 7 o'clock with the results from the Town Meeting Day 2025 election. That is the results room right there, where things will be hustling and bustling in just an hour or two. The calm before the storm, as they say. Yes. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you at 7 o'clock. So long.